I'm Jason Sutter. I'm a drummer from Los Angeles, California, United States of America. When I was very little, I stressed interest, from listening to records when I was probably 7, actually earlier than that, when I was probably 5 or 6. And my parents brought me a snare drum and I played with that, and then I got a cymbal to go along with it, and then started learning like early Cheap Trick records, and then eventually got a drum set and started playing in bands when I was 9. So I was very lucky to have a great teacher named Jim Peterzak, who is from upstate New York, a town called Potsdam, teaches at a school called Crane School of Music, still does, and I was really lucky to just be exposed to all the great drummers at that school at the time, and his, has wonderful, technique, snare drum, and so I was very fortunate. So that's kind of how it started. It was a college town, so there was a lot of work, and so I was able to play with a lot of older players at a young age and start actually getting life lessons and gigging. It's a matter of being able to play, I think playing with different artists, it's obviously there's concentration, there's focus, there's, retaining large amounts of music. I mean, with Cornell, I think by the end we had to learn like something like maybe almost 80 songs, and be able to play them any time. So over the course of 3 years, that's a lot of memory, a lot to remember. So I think other than that, and then just, being able to, being able to weather the jet lag, or the conditions you don't have control over, I think being able to personalities and different environments that you have to play in, or gear that you have to rent. So I think there's a lot of those things you kind of get good at, being able to play your best regardless of the situation. Obviously LA, I moved there 15 years ago, and it was a very, very, very different place. It's changed quite a bit. The music industry has changed, basically music has become much more accessible and to the public without having to pay for it, so that's going to affect ultimately the music scene. So I think LA is definitely feeling that. That said, I think it's still an exciting place to be. There's a lot of work, I love the city. It's fascinating. It's so steeped in rock and roll and history of sessions and recording, and it's kind of where all the, still the studios, those famous big giant studios that half of our favorite rock records were recorded at. So there's an excitement there that I think will never die. But it's definitely becoming more challenging. There are more great drummers. There are more great drummers moving to LA than ever, and there's less work. So just like anywhere, it's more difficult, and I think you really have to be diverse and have a lot of different, bags that you can play in. Otherwise, it will be harder to keep a career going as a drummer, So I think a lot of people are having to have more than one thing going, whether it be all drumming, or they're a producer, or they are, there's a million things you could do in LA. So I think you can't it's harder to just do one thing, to come there and say, I'm going to be a rock guy, or I'm going to be a jazz guy, I think it's becoming harder and harder to do that. But I think LA is fascinating. I think Nashville, Tennessee is really exciting right now, and I recommend a lot of younger drummers move there because it's inexpensive and it's a thriving music scene, and it's not all country. I think it could be the future of the next big music scene. So I definitely have my eye on Nashville, Tennessee, and I think that's just as exciting, and it provides maybe a cheaper environment to maybe pursue a career. So I think you'll be hearing more about Nashville in the future as the industry becomes tighter and tighter,